Alright, so we got the full summary for 11:13, and we're finding out so much more than what we did yesterday. So the big stuff, of course, is that Vegapunk's message has been successfully delivered to the world. The Gorosei were unable to stop him, and we'll get into why. But the message is that the world of One Piece, the planet that they live, will sink into the sea. Yes, that's huge. I guess that's like the end goal of the series, or at least from the antagonist side, and we'll get into why that probably is. We're also seeing Sanji take on Venus, and they're actually fighting. More than just Sanji is actually fighting Venus in this chapter. Saturn is fighting the other Straw Hats as well, and it's surprising how he is doing here. So much to go over. So let's get into it. Chapter starts where the last one ended. What Mars saw at the end of the last chapter was a giant tank with Vegapunk's massive head inside. Vegapunk's head still has hair. And Mars says, so this thing is still alive even after you're gone? What exactly is death? Where does the consciousness reside? Is this you, Vegapunk? Okay, so we went over this in the previous review. I was totally wrong about what this could have been. I was over-analyzing it when the obvious answer was it just would have been Vegapunk's head, because we knew that's what Punk records contained. But reading this, it seems like it's actually like his head and not just his brain. And I was also wondering, like, is he still alive or does he still have consciousness in there? Considering also what Mars says here. And I guess that parallels back to what's going on with Kuma, considering that, like, his fully seemingly android body at this point was still able to continue with a will of its own, you know, protecting Bonney and all that stuff, punching Saturn, with Vegapunk making ambiguous comments onto why that could be, possibly relating to the Buccaneer race or something. But I'm sure there's some kind of deeper soul and consciousness dynamic in this series. Also, considering what Vegapunk says to Kuma back in the flashback when he's like making him into a cyborg, he says that a scholar in the West Blue once said that people lose 21 grams of weight after they die. In other words, that is the weight of the human soul. So is that like referring to the soul here? I don't know. Maybe they'll go more into it. Maybe they won't. Especially since we know more about Brook's devil fruit at this point. Mars steps on the Haishin Denden Mushi, but the shell is fake, and Mars discovers that inside there's just a normal Denden Mushi. Mars starts to panic because he doesn't know where Vegapunk hid the real one. Now we see all people over the world are waiting for Vegapunk's message. In Syrup Village, we see Kaya, Mary, Ninjin, Paimon, and Tamanegi discussing about Vegapunk and his impact on the medical world. In Twin Cape Lighthouse, we see Crocus is listening to Vegapunk's message with Laboon. In Baltimore, the old man mentions that Frankie has become a ship now, and we see the reactions too in Torino Kingdom and Hachinosu. However, we only see reactions from random pirates, no one from the Blackbeard crew and other islands. Time is up, and Vegapunk starts speaking. Mars communicates with the other Gorosei. Mars says, I have no idea what Vegapunk is about to say, but it's highly possible that he intends to get revenge for Clover and O'Hara. So yeah, that makes sense. We went over this flashback in the previous video that I did on these spoilers, but back in Robin's flashback when she was a kid, the island of O'Hara was destroyed because the people there were researching the Void Century, especially Professor Clover. Cut to Bonnie's group. Sanji arrives in time and kicks Nus Joro in the face. Nusjuro turns to his Bakotsu form and bites Sanji. Oimo and Kashi restrain Nusjuro from both sides. Then Bonney turns into her giant future form and stomps on Nusjuro. Alright, this was unexpected. So first of all, we thought it was going to be Zoro going after Venus here, but no, it's Sanji arriving and saving Bonney from him. Now, I don't know how significant this kick to Venus is, but Oimo and Kashi are restraining Venus here, and Bonney stomping on him. Now granted, he's not going to take any damage from this because the Gorosei don't get damaged. They could just regenerate. They're seemingly invincible at this point until we find out what's truly going on with them. But still, this is kind of what was happening with Saturn. It's kind of undermining how powerful these guys are before they're even really getting started. Back to Vegapunk's message. Vegapunk explains that he has committed 2 great sins, but he doesn't say what are those sins in this chapter, meaning that he will end up captured or killed. For that reason, he set this broadcast to start when his heart stopped beating. Cut to the reactions from people all over the world to Vegapunk's death. We see Caesar and Judge in Germa Kingdom. Caesar is crying, saying that he worked so hard to bring Vegapunk down. So yeah, that's pretty cool. We see Caesar and Judge together outside of like the cover stories here. It turns out that while all the main stuff was happening, after Whole Cake Island, Caesar and Judge got back together and kind of made like this thing called Neo-Mads, because they were originally in Mads with Vegapunk back in the day, along with Queen too. And now that the Beast Pirates are done, I'm sure Queen will bust out of, I guess, Impel Down or wherever he's being held captive right now. And I'm sure he'll eventually rejoin with the trio here and, you know, fully complete Neo-Mads. Near Sabaody, we can see Duval and his base. He's confused about why Vegapunk is dead when the morning news said that he was a Straw Hat hostage. In the World Economy newspaper headquarters, we can see Morgan. He is very angry. He says this kind of broadcast will be the end of the newspaper business. While we see all of these characters, Vegapunk's message continues. And he says, whoever ends up killing me, I don't blame them as being evil. I will not label anyone as good or evil, since I don't understand him enough to do so. Okay, him. I guess he's referring to Emu, right? Or Joy Boy? I guess it's Emu, right? It has to be Emu that he's referring to here. Cut to Nami's group. Saturn reaches the cloud where they are. Robin hears Saturn's voice and becomes frozen in shock because she recognizes the voice that she heard at Ohara. We can see a flashback of that moment. So yeah, like I was saying, the Gorosei gave the orders to kill Professor Clover and launch the Buster Call on Ohara to kill everybody. So that's how Robin knows. Saturn says, Nico Robin, the woman that Akainu failed to wipe out. And Nami says, everyone protect Robin. Brooke cuts off one of Saturn's legs. Usopp shoots an explosive bullet. Nami pulls Robin away while she uses Zeus to block Saturn's legs. And Chopper uses Guard Point to protect all of them. But yeah, this is going back to what I was saying. The Gorosei being downplayed here. He's getting played by the weaker Straw Hats. I mean, okay, it's good that the weaker Straw Hats are getting some shine here against a Gorosei member. I mean, it's about time. But speaking of time, they haven't really had enough time to logically progress in power. It's only been, what, a couple weeks since the time skip or something, right? It hasn't been very long. I totally expected them to just get destroyed here because on paper they should, but whatever. Oda needs them to be as strong as they are at this point, so it's fine. No Luffy, Zoro, Jinbei in this chapter. Wow. Cut to Mars again. He's talking with the other Gorosei about what they should do now. And he says, what would happen if I just destroy the power plant? Saturn says, don't do it. We could care less if it ends up wiping out all the battleships and the soldiers surrounding the island, but it would mean no one would be able to ever create another mother flame. Okay, we were actually speculating about this in the previous chapter. Why York was telling Mars not to blow up the power plant because it would take out everything, including like the data that they have. And I was thinking like, oh, because that's possibly how they know how to create the mother flame. And I assume the Mother Flame is the fuel source for Uranus, like the big sky ship that destroys stuff, like what Emu used to destroy Lelusia. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Chapter ends with these Vegapunk shocking words, while we have a view of the sea with small Egghead Island in the distance. Vegapunk says, what I'm about to say may sound absurd. Many will laugh at me, but everyone has the right to know. Let's begin with the conclusion. This world will sink into the sea. In the last panel of the chapter, we see a picture of the seafloor where some mermaids are swimming with fishes and whales. So yeah, that's the big revelation here. The world will sink into the sea. And we were talking about this in the previous chapter, and it's like, why is that? Is it like a natural occurrence, or is it something planned by Emu? It's probably the latter here, because I think this already happened. I think that's possibly what the big event in the Void Century was. There was like a huge flood initially that wound up killing most people that were going against the world government, I suppose. And it was caused by Emu. Now, it was either caused using Uranus, you know, fueled by the Mother Flame to like take out enough islands or shoot enough holes into the sea, because it said after Lelusia that it raised the sea level. And we've also seen instances throughout the story of the sea level being raised and contingencies being made because of that. I mean, that could also be why Mer Joie is so high up on the red line, because there will be multiple floods in the world, kind of like resets or periodic resets. And I guess this also parallels to like the Bible, you know, with the big flood that happened with Noah having to create the Ark, because, you know, if we go back to Fishman Island, their big ship down there was called the Noah. Now, if it's not just Uranus, then like I said before, Emu might have some kind of devil fruit that allows them to manipulate water. Or, I don't know, some kind of devil magic that the Gorosei and Emu have. It could be a fusion of all of them, but definitely has something to do with Emu. And maybe Vegapunk knows that the way that the world is right now, Emu is going to cause another great reset. I think it could also go back to what the Gorosei were saying when maybe it's time for another great cleansing. You know, he said something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. If you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.